One. Greetings, there, people. It's your cult personality here. Toon Critic's name, Toon's name again. Welcome back to Roundtable is Magic. You know me. You know how we do these things on here. We are doing another Roundtable interview. This one, however, is a little special. On Roundtable, you've seen us interview voice actors and writers from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, but today we are switching things up a bit. Today's special guest is an IDW comic book artist, lending his artsy skills to several issues of the MLP comic book series and its spin-offs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome aboard Tony Fleeks.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Going well.
It's Fleece, actually. The C is a soft C.
You know, I just realized every time I do these interviews, I somehow inadvertently end up mispronouncing the guests' names. Somehow. Maybe I should just make this like a full-blown running gag just to mess with people now.
No, I mean, don't feel too singled out because I keep hearing it the wrong way from multiple people. Is it Fleeks or is it Fleece? And I keep thinking it's got to be Fleece, but everybody said no, it's Fleeks. And I'm like,
for the record, it's Fleece.
Okay,
I rarely
Fleece.
correct anyone, but I figure if it's an interview with just me and you guys, we might as well get it right from the start.
Yes,
right.
Fleece.
Thank you for clearing that up. To all of you, it is Fleece.
Straight Fleece. It's no big deal. It's a very difficult name anyway. It's weird looking. It's rare. I'm the only Tony Fleece in the world.
Thank you, Tony Fluke. Okay, so
Moving on.
I am joined today by the following co-hosts, Lightning Bliss
Artwork is awesome.
and Keyframe.
hello, welcome to the Non-Content Podcast.
It is good to have Keyframe back. You know, she's been doing stuff on the side, and I figure it's good that we have two artists with us since we are interviewing an artist as well. So, let's actually get this train a-rolling. So, Mr. Tony, sir, what were
Yes.
some of your earliest influences in drawing, and how many of them still influence you?
I don't know. I feel like I'm influenced by everything nowadays. But when I was first starting, it was all like cartoons that were on TV, newspaper cartoons, and then one of my cousins, my dad's cousins, I guess that makes it a second cousin, was an artist, and he would just sit and draw with me, and he liked to draw like sort of 70s metal fantasy looking stuff. It was the 80s, but it was very like wizards and swords and sorcery and stuff like that. Yeah, and it was all like super metal and like super dangerous looking, but it was so fun to just sit around and draw with him. So yeah, I was really into like Disney cartoons and Don Bluth cartoons. The older I got, I could separate just like this is a cartoon to like this is a specific person made this cartoon. So like I think one of my major influences was Don Bluth. I don't know if that shows up in my work at all, but just like I was such a huge fan of like the way he did expressions and like bouncy characters and edgy sort of like he did characters that were scary and characters that were like ugly, all kinds of stuff.
I can kind of see it when you did the Nightmare Moon comic. The little moon owl dream creatures kind of look like something that could be in a donkey.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I could see it in your line work specifically because your line work tends to show beautifully. That's what stands out to me the most.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Bliss, it is your turn.
Okay. So like Keyframe, I'm also an artist. I started at a very early age, as soon as I was old enough to pick up a crayon. I tend to do artwork, I think, based off the fact that I had hearing issues as a child, and I'm more of a visual learner, and I tend to express myself through artwork. That being said, what first got you into doing artwork?
Well, I'm the oldest child, so it was just me and my parents for like the first 4 years I was around, and then I had a sister when I was 4, and then after that I had 3 other brothers and sisters, so I'm the oldest of 5. So I sort of was enough years older than the other kids that I was almost like an only child, like I was on my own a lot because they were much younger than me and sort of doing their thing. So I would get left alone sometimes, not like neglected, but like, I could sort of take care of myself. So my dad would bring home these big reams of paper from his work, and I would just sit there and draw cartoons, from the newspaper or off of TV. But a lot of it just sort of came from being left alone or being bored. And then when my parents would see, that I had an aptitude disorder, that I was into it, they were real encouraging, and sort of like leaned into it and said like, oh, this is something that he's interested in, so let's encourage this and try and nurture this. We used to go to church, and I would get so bored there that they would have these, like in the back of a pew, there were always like these donation cards you could pull out and, write down how much you were going to give to the church. Or sometimes it would be like a program that would say what the songs they were going to sing. And I would always draw on the back of those for the whole, hour or whatever that you're in church for. So it was just pretty much, yeah.
Guilty.
anytime that I was, I would start to feel bored, I would just pick up a pencil and start drawing. So I was never really bored. I was just always being creative, or drawing something that I saw in life, or drawing, creating new things. Or I've always pretty much just drawn since I was about 4 years old, I guess.
See,
Nice.
You all are like talking about like, oh, art is, or like how they started out with art and stuff. Me, I'm just sitting here like the most art I've ever done is like on the back of like when I go to restaurants, like you're given those little kids mats. That's the best I've been able to do with art, just on the back of those, just scribbling random stuff. I got a C in art class in like middle school and high school, so I'm like, okay, I guess this is
Me
not
too.
meant for me. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I got a B or a C in one of my art classes, and my dad was one of those parents that like raced into school and lit that teacher's ass up. Like he was like, "This is not happening. Are you out of your mind?" I was both embarrassed and very proud that day. My dad just went and yelled at my art teacher for a while. I don't know what happened. I suppose it probably was maybe I wasn't paying enough attention, or I wasn't doing the projects we were supposed to be doing. But yeah.
All right, keep going.
Eventually, I could count on art classes to be straight A classes. They lift the rest of my GPA.
That's good. Keyfriend?
Yes, my turn. So you and like Andy and the other artists over in the comic place, you guys do a lot of traditional inkings for your work. So I've seen on like your guys' Twitters or Andy's Twitter, like doing the actual inking works. You guys have far more patience than I. But have you ever had one of those horror stories where the inking or something in the traditional sense goes awry and you have to redo everything?
Oh,
I have not. My style, like my workflow is a lot more hybrid than Andy's. Or I think Jay is pretty well traditional too. I start out digital. I do my layouts digitally, and then I print out blue lines and I do traditional inks over that. So usually I have a pretty good guideline of what's going to happen before I even start working traditionally. But sometimes I'll have to use, like whiteout, or I've got like a sticker paper that I'll sometimes put over a face if I don't like it, and I'll redraw it. But then I scan it back in, and I do fixes in Photoshop when I get it, scanned back in. So it's like starts out digital and then goes back to digital at the end. So I'm real comfortable fixing stuff on the fly. I did one issue completely digitally just because I was in a real rush. And then on a bunch of issues, I'll do random pages digitally on my iPad just because it'll be like I'm traveling, and it's much easier to draw a page on a plane on the iPad than it is to bring 11 by 17 paper out and try and make it fit on that tray on an airplane. So yeah, I haven't.
Is it just me though, or have like airplane trays gotten a lot smaller over the years?
Yeah, well, I got fatter too, so the room between the tray and my lap is much smaller too.
Jeez.
The stomach is just an extension of the table.
Yeah, I got to
guess
with me at all times.
Oh.
Well, I guess it's back to Toon.
Yes. So you've been to a fair share of Brony conventions, sir.
Yes.
How has your con experience changed from your first year doing Brony conventions to now, roughly the end of 2017?
I feel like there's been sort of an arc. The first one I went to was Equestria LA in 2013, I think. And at that one, nobody even knew there were comics. Like, the comics had only been coming out for a short while. And I had a box of them to sell, but a lot of people were just like, are these real? Are they licensed? And what do you do? I was just I wasn't like a special guest of the show or anything. I was just there. They gave me a table in the vendor hall. So there was that, and then from there it sort of went like sky high, where you're like a special guest, and they give you all kinds of money to come out. And it's just like they treat you like a superstar, and it's great. And now it's sort of started to even out a little bit, where they give you less money, and they treat you very respectfully. But it's all Mr. Fleece, and once people get to know me, they know they can just call me by my name, and they don't have to be too precious. They can ask me anything. It's now that I pretty much know everybody, it's gotten a lot less formal. So it started out nobody knew, nobody cared, and then it went to like rock star for a little bit, and now it's sort of evened out to they don't care so much anymore.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing I've noticed, especially from cons. Things seem to be a lot more chill. Things seem to be a lot less formal, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that just comes from you do these shows and you start to realize that a lot of it, there's some people that just only come to their regional shows, but a lot of the people that go to the shows are the same people over and over again. The people that set up are the same. The people that run the shows and do like Viper are the same. So you sort of get to see these people, several times a year, and get to hang out with them and sort of figure out what their deal is and know about who they are and their families and stuff like that. So it is a lot more casual than it was, in 2015.
Yeah.
2014.
Do you get that same kind of chill vibe from like the non-pony conventions? Because you've been to like a bunch of Comic-Cons this year too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I do a lot of cons in a year. This last year I probably did like 6 pony conventions, but then I did a total of like 12 or 15 conventions, and then last year I did like 21 conventions. So it's a pretty substantial part of my my job. But yeah, the regular conventions too. There's some people who I know really well who run the shows, and then I try to do new shows. So then I'm meeting those people for the first time. But there will always be somebody at the show that'll be like my touchstone. Like that's a person I already know, so we'll get dinner together or whatever.
That's good. Liz, you're up.
So I tend to ask this with every artist because I've been inspired by, I know it's kind of old school, but I love Leonardo da Vinci's work, and the oddball out is that I'm also a fan of H.R. Geiger because he had a unique style, and while a lot of people would find his style very creepy and unorthodox, I find it inspiring, and somebody who takes pride in what he does despite other people may not like it.
Did you watch that documentary about him on Netflix?
Unfortunately not. I'd love to. Fortunately, I just don't have Netflix.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's sad. Sad.
Well, go to any friend's house that everyone else in the universe
I have Netflix. I can hook you up with that.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
You're
Just
in
borrow a
Chicago.
No, you can use my account. What's the name of the documentary?
It's called H.R. Geiger something. I don't know.
Okay, that narrows it down.
Dreams
Guys,
and visions,
Yeah, let's just abandon this interview and go watch the HR Geiger.
I actually
We'll reconvene.
like that, but
Yeah.
we got a review to do. An interview to do.
Anyway,
But
continue,
yeah.
Bliss.
I'm a huge fan of H.R. Geiger. I had dreams of actually meeting him, but unfortunately he passed away too early, in my opinion. But at least he died doing what he loved. Bless
Well,
his
when you
heart.
see this documentary, you'll see that it's a shock that he didn't pass away sooner. Like he just seems like a corpse in the documentary. Like he's just he's walking around. He seems okay, but his voice he sounds and looks exactly like you'd think he sounds and looks based on his artwork.
Yeah.
Like just a real, a very unique, creepy dude.
I admire the creepy dude because I'm sure people picked on him for his talent, which it's not like he said anything, but I'm kind of assuming that happened. But anyway, to get to my question,
Yes.
were there other artists who inspired you, and if so, who are they?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sort of a product of my time. I was a comic book fan in the late 80s and 90s. So, like, all the people that were really exciting around then were there were a lot of comic book superstars back then, and I sort of fell into that. Like, comics were really exciting then. So people like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, And then people came along that started doing sort of like more cartoonier versions of comics that were still superhero comics. So J. Scott Campbell and Joe Madureira and Humberto Ramos are some of the guys that just like blew my young mind wide open. And that was sort of who was inspiring me when I was in my formative years. And then the older I get, I find myself just heading in 1,000 different directions. You know, like, oh, for a little while I'll just be into like the painter Robert McGinnis, or for a little while I'll check out, you know, background artist Ivan Earl, or, you know, just like I'll come across somebody's art and then I'll Google them and I'll be like, that's crazy, and then I'll see if they have a book, and if they have a book I'll order that, and, you know, just sort of really do a deep dive on somebody, and then try and, you know, just internalize that and then put it back out, you know, through my work. Not so much in a way where you're ripping somebody off, but sort of understanding what they were doing and then trying to figure out how that fits into what I'm doing.
Yeah, I have a nasty habit of looking at other people's work and trying to imprint. Well, no, not imprint. Replicate, because I'm a 2D animator, and they say if you can do it Scooby-Doo style, then you're hired. But what ends up happening is, like, I'll try to replicate keyframe style, and it still ends up being my own because there's large differences, like with my line work and whatnot. So, yeah.
Then I also work in a studio now. Like, we rent a studio space and work together, me and 4 other comic book artists. And so those guys that I work with are sort of like my current, not inspiration so much, but like the people that I am learning from, and sort of like that have an effect on how my work is. You know, like, I'll pass my stuff off to them and say, like, do you see anything wrong with this, or what would you do? And they'll make sort of like little notes on it, or we'll sort of walk around while we're stretching our legs and see what the other guys are working on, and just be like, oh, this looks a little weird, or have you thought about trying this? So those guys, we work in a studio called Garage Art Studio, and it's me and this dude Chris Moreno, who's right now he's an art director at Disney. But he's like a comic book artist from back in the day. We used to publish comics in the same small press publishers like 10 years ago. And then Drew Johnson's a guy that used to draw Wonder Woman. And right now he's working on some secret stuff. And then Chris Burnham drew Batman. He's working on some secret stuff right now. And then this dude named Dennis Culver, who does a book called Edison Rex. And then he's also got some new stuff coming out. So we're all just sort of like constantly like making comics and coming up with new things, and, you know, passing jobs around. And it's cool to have those guys like be there to serve as like backup when I'm working on a piece, and then also if I get into trouble like on a deadline, or if a freelance job comes along that I don't have time for, I can pass it off to one of them, and that way, you know, we don't lose a client. We just sort of keep them in the family. So
Cool.
Yeah.
You were talking about a lot of different artists that you know and have worked with. That actually segues really nicely, I think, into Key's question.
Yeah, so the IDW team, you know, outside of Pony, just IDW owns like 1,000,005 different IPs among their original stuff.
Yeah.
So like, who are artists in the IDW team that you greatly admire their work, whether it be Andy or Jay or her name always escapes me, Sarah Richard, and, you know, all those people.
Oh yeah. So like on Pony, you mean, or somebody else?
Just of the IDW conglomerate, I guess.
Well, like on wider IDW, I really like Walt Simonson's a comic book artist that used to draw Thor back in the day, and he drew X Factor. But he does this book at IDW called Ragnarok, which is sort of like a Thor story, but not Marvel Comics Thor, just like, you know, Thor. He's great. And then there's this dude named Gabe Rodriguez who drew Lock and Key, and now he's doing a new book called Sword of something. It just came out this week, so I haven't really internalized it yet, but it's great looking. Like, he's just a real cool technical artist. Like, he draws characters that are real expressive and imaginative, but also can draw backgrounds like nobody's business, because I think he used to be an architect. But on Ponies, my favorites are when Amy was doing Ponies. I loved Amy Meberson. She was my favorite. And then I love Brenda Hickey. She's probably my current favorite.
Oh, she's great.
And yeah, she's like, she does. They look like exactly like the show, but they also look exactly like she drew them. You know, like she does the best job, I think, of sort of doing on model ponies that also have a lot of character. And you know, she does these wild reaction shots and takes that are just like completely crazy looking, but still also look like ponies.
Yeah, her splash pages are like the one in the Twilight Pinky Friends Forever comic is just gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I can't understand how people can do layouts like that.
Yeah, super imaginative, and like you can tell she's having a lot of fun with it. And she's really young, like she's still in her 20s, like I think not even late 20s yet, but maybe I don't know. She's a young person, which is infuriating. And she's a mom, so sometimes she also has like mom stuff to do, and her husband is also a great cartoonist, so it's just a whole weird situation they got going on. She's great. And then I think we all love Jay Fosgitt. The people that draw the comics love him. Some of the fans of the comics do not love him, but like us that make it are just like, he's a super talent, like crazy.
Very distinct style.
Yeah, and it just sort of like, it just comes right out of him. He just draws constantly, and he just will knock stuff out in a quick sketch that's just like, you know, has all the character and heart of something that you know, I would labor over for hours. So you can tell it's sort of like real internalized with him, you know, like he just lives cartoons and breathes cartoons, and yeah, I love him. And then, you know, like everybody that draws pony does stuff that I really like Andy does really intricate, like cool designs and layouts, and like his backgrounds are super dope sometimes, and he does great reactions on the characters too, and he does great blacks, you know, like he comes from a different comic book background than I do, and so he's always doing like these sort of like heavy, dark Bernie Wrightson style shadows in these pony books, and I can't even figure out how he makes it work, but he does. And then Agnes, you know, does like these super bright and light pony books that just look like, you know, like any they feel real feminine, you know, like they just feel like
they're soft. They feel really soft, pastel-y, watercolory.
Like soft and just inviting and like, you know, comforting. And then Sarah Richards' stuff is crazy, you know, just like the way she puts colors together and shapes. She's like real unrestrained when it comes to you know, like layouts. Like it doesn't have to be literal. It can be like super imaginative and abstract. So yeah, I like everybody that draws the comics. I feel like I'm part of a pretty cool club, you know, like these people that do this thing, like each of them sort of has a cool thing that they do. I don't know what I do, but I can definitely point to everybody else and go like, oh, that's the one that, you know, when I see their work, I'm like, oh, they're going to do this thing that I like, and they usually do it.
You're at the kids' table, Tony.
Exactly. Then there's this new lady that just started doing covers named Jennifer Meyer. And I've seen, she's only done a couple of them, but they're like these super like dramatic or like super emotional, or like they're like these real painterly but sort of also sketchy covers, and I'm interested to see what she ends up doing if she does more stuff. I looked at her website and she does a lot of fantasy artwork, so I'd definitely be interested to see her do some sequential pony stuff. I wonder if she will.
Yes, my next question that I have, what is your personal favorite piece of advice that you give to all artists?
Oh man, I think the only I mean, everybody tells you to draw all the time. You know, they tell other artists to just draw every day, but my advice is more just be prepared to have stamina to draw, you know, like constantly, because if you don't have work, it's a good idea to just be drawing constantly to sort of have your to be ready, you know, like to get good enough that when you do get work, you can sort of jump right into it. Whenever a job comes along, I just say, before they even ask me what it is, I go like, yeah, I can do that. And then when I get it, I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to do this? So then I just get the stuff done by constantly working. So the advice I give to people is just have good stamina, be ready to work, insane hours, and be able to draw constantly. Like I'll go through phases where my arm will hurt from drawing too much, and then I'll just you sort of have to draw through it, and then eventually you sort of work up a Popeye arm. Like I'm left-handed, so my left arm is much stronger than my right arm because it's just constantly moving.
You just see this hulking giant like at the table, just like, is that a bodybuilder? No, man, that's an artist.
Yeah, it's just the one part of my wrist and arm is very muscular, and all the rest of me is just doughy and flabby.
I bench 3 Copics a day.
Exactly, just crushing them.
No, that's actually pretty funny. I'm legit imagining that, like, again, it's just this big, bulky dude, and I'm just like, what is this guy doing here? He's not doing exercise, he's just drawing. And you see his, like, wrists are, like, the size of, like, cinder blocks.
Yeah. Just working pencils down to the nub. It's all about hustling. Like, it's just being able to work hard and stay hard working. Like, when I went to art school, it was sort of like a lot of, you're a teenager, you're just out of high school, and you go to this thing, and that was where I first sort of had to work hard at drawing, but also there were people there that were like, oh shit, this is going to be hard work. I thought it was just going to be drawing, because it is such a relaxing thing when you're doing it, and it's not it's not a job. If you're just drawing for fun or to relax, then it's just sort of casual. But when it's time to work, it becomes a real endurance test. Like how much am I going to be able to get done tonight, and can I get it all done before this certain date? And, so you either learn to get real fast or just be good at sticking to it for a real long time. Which is what I do.
That's actually a pretty nice segue into Bliss's question, actually.
Yes. I hate it when this happens, and it does eventually happen, but when you have artist block, what do you normally do to combat it?
Oh, I don't get it. The thing is, for so many years, I've only drawn what I've been assigned to draw. I'm sort of in a fortunate position that I'm a working artist, and I have a pretty hectic schedule. So on the bummer side of it is that I don't get to draw for myself and sort of create my own stuff as much as I'd like to. But on the positive side, I don't get artist block because I just always have, an assignment, and it says draw this, and so my artist block it doesn't make a lot of sense to have it because it says right there on the script, like, oh, I got to draw this thing, so I just have to start drawing it. And even if I don't quite know how I'm going to handle it, if I just start drawing and, draw a head, and then, draw a neck, and then you draw arms and legs, and, eventually it all starts to come together. And if that one's crappy, then you throw it out and you draw another head. Yeah, I just don't really get it. Artist block. I understand that people do get it. I'm not saying I don't get it, like I don't understand it, but I luckily do not have it. So yeah. I don't know how you. My suggestion would be to get some steady comic book work, and then you'll have less of that. That's the only suggestion. Yeah, it's sort of a privileged position.
When I do commissions, I don't get the issue with artist block because, like, oh, I got to do this and it's a job. But when it comes to my own work, because I like to do my own work, and then I can admit for the past 3 weeks, I have not been able to draw something I want. I've only been able to do commissions. It's frustrating.
No.
Yeah. But normally what I tell people who say they get it is that, well, don't worry about it. Don't even think about it. Go and do off other things. Don't even think about it. And then eventually you'll start doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's like if I'm working on a page or a piece, a cover, or something that's not looking right, or I'm not feeling it, I'll take a walk around the block, or move on to some other job and work on that for a little bit, or go home and then come back a couple hours later, just sort of get a little distance from it. And perspective always helps.
Yeah,
forget what it looks like, get out of your head for a minute, and then come back to it, and maybe you'll have a different take on it, or come at it from a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the last question goes to Key here.
Yeah, save the best for last. Oh, sorry, I've been spending this entire time just thinking about the super buff artist arm and how. I just don't even imagine a wrist at that point. The wrist goes into the hand. It's just
Yeah.
part of the hand. That's this overactive imagination. Anyway, so like you said, you've gone to an assload of conventions. You know, not just this year, but for many years. And at these conventions, not only do you sell your work, you do commission work. I have to ask, what is the weirdest prompt or thing that someone has commissioned you to do? It doesn't have to be pony related, just strange in general, and it can be bad, strange, good, strange, just a very unorthodox thing commissioned you to do.
Well, with the ponies, it's also strange anyway. You know, like they're like these magical ponies, and some of them can fly, and some of them are just earth ponies. Like the premise of ponies has so much ridiculous stuff in it that like when the commissions are weird, sometimes they're not they're not weirder than the premise in the first place. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's just sort of like this big weird cartoon that to me it's just like a weird ass cartoon. So like I dig it. And when somebody has like a weird like a commission, I'm just like, this fits right into me. Like this bizarre thing this person wants. So those don't even stick out to me that much. The more detailed they are, the more, like I did one at BronyCon that was like a Daybreaker with Equestria Girls version, and she's playing a Nintendo Switch. So that's like very specific.
Interesting.
I guess the more specific they are, the more they stick out. And then a lot of them will be like based on people's fan fictions or based on some other fan fiction that they like,
fun.
you know. Or a lot of OCs. But as far as like super weird ones, I don't get sexual ones because I feel like real early on they sort of got the hint that us that draw the ponies for real don't want to jeopardize having a job drawing the ponies for real. So like there's no like nudie rainbow dashes out there drawn by me. Like I don't ever live in fear that one day somebody's gonna mail something to Hasbro and just be like, see, get rid of this guy. But so people are onto that, so they don't really ask about it. I did some Soviet ponies at BronyCon like 2 years ago. Like somebody was just really into like they got like a Lenin pony and a Trotsky, and these are just $20 head sketches, so they weren't like super detailed, but I think the likenesses are pretty good. Yeah, super weird.
I'm trying to picture that in my head. I can't. Actually, I want to ask you something. So, as an artist, what is your take on red and black characters?
Well, you have a red and black OC.
Yes, I do.
I mean, in a commission, I think it's fine. I can make it work. I'm glad that there's not a lot of red and black ponies in the book or in the show, just because it's a hard color to do effects on or like shadows. Like it's just so dark anyway that if I had to do like covers with like a red and black pony who's like a main character, there's not a whole lot of different ways I could go with it. The colors on the main ponies are also like pastel and well designed, that you can put them in a million different settings and they always sort of look pretty good. I asked Lauren Faust about it on a panel at I think Nightmare Nights, but I was just so impressed with how well those, like when I first got the job I was like, this is going to be hard to draw these ponies and color them and make them look good next to each other, and I've never once in 5 years had a problem with two ponies like clashing. So it's crazy to me how well the whole world fits together, just because of the soft palette, I think. Like the soft color palette, they don't have a soft palette like in their mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the red and black characters are sort of other from that. Like they're different. And Lord Tyrek sort of is black and red, but even his red is like a softer red, and his black is sort of like a gray. So I don't
I
know.
could
I am glad that they don't show up that much, just because it is harder to make them fit in and sort of color them to match other things.
So they're okay in your book.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't have an angry rant against
Okay,
anybody's OC.
good.
I can imagine Tempest was kind of, since you were the artist for the prequel comics, that must have been kind of a threshold. I mean,
yeah, I
she's
was the cover
she's
artist.
purple and red, but her costume is kind of black.
Yeah,
Ish.
but again, it's all sort of softer. She's definitely on the darker end of any sort of these pony characters. You know, like she is a big contrast. You know, if you put her next to Rainbow Dash, who's just like a super light blue. Rainbow Dash looks even lighter, and she looks even darker.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I feel like the people that made the movie considered that when designing her too, and sort of made the purple that she is complementary enough to those other characters. You know, like when you put her next to Twilight Sparkle, she makes her purple look super light too, almost like a very light purple. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my boring answer for that. Is just the contrast of these darker characters makes them problematic, but also that just makes it like an issue, like a problem to be solved. You know, like it's not a problem, it's a challenge. Also,
Well-
Andy was the artist on the prequel comics. I just drew the covers.
Ah. I only looked at the cover.
Yeah,
Well.
that's good. You saw all you need to see.
Exactly.
I saw all I need to see because I didn't get to watch the movie until like 2 weeks after. So it's like I saw the prequel comics and I'm like, I probably shouldn't read these yet.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, no spoilers.
That's how I am right now with Star Wars. I don't want to know anything.
Oh,
No
yeah.
prequel, nothing. I'm not reading any reviews. I'm cloistered.
Dude, same.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I don't even know what Star Wars is at this point, so that's how
Yeah.
blind I am.
Is that-
I
The-
haven't watched any trailers since the first one, so I know very little to nothing.
Yeah,
Ah.
that's pretty much the same with me. Anyways, I think we're at the end of this, unless we have any other questions we want to go with, or are we good?
Nope.
I'm good.
Okay. Did you have any questions for us? No, I'm kidding. Switch the interview right now.
What's
We're
your
being
number?
interviewed.
Do you guys do this every week?
We don't often. Whenever, I guess, when we find a time, we don't do this. Well, we do the podcast like Roundtables Magic every week, but we don't interview guests every single week. We mostly review the
Right.
show.
Right.
Like when an episode comes out, the next day or the next 2 days after, we actually review it. So that's kind of the weekly thing we do it. But we're on the hiatus, so we've kind of had to switch things up a little bit.
Right. Who are you interviewing next? Is it a secret?
Lauren Faust. I don't know.
Oh,
What?
congratulations.
No, I'm kidding. I wish.
Uh,
I
Like,
wish.
dude, you didn't tell me that. Oh,
we
you joking.
don't
that
know.
is a great take out there.
Whoever responds to my email asking if they want to be interviewed, I guess it kind of just like, first come first served basis. But we've done interviews from Nicole Oliver, Vincent Tong, Peter New, Amy Katie
Vincent
Rogers, M.A. Larson, quite a lot of people.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
we are a legitimate podcast. I think that's fair to say now.
That's
Good.
That's-
I
Those are
don't
two
like to
words that
associate
people
with anything illegitimate.
Well, that's good.
Don't speak of the Vince Tong interview.
Yeah, let's not. No, we're not going to talk about how Vincent Tong hit on you inadvertently. We're not going to talk about
Shut
that.
up, Zach!
Oh man, I'm going back and listen to that.
I know. We've hit the big time. We've hit the big time.
No, even I admit, like, I have a dream, but it more likely won't happen because I don't think she does podcasts. But I would have loved to do an interview with Bonnie Zaccarelli, sorry.
Oh, Bonnie Zachary?
Yeah.
She doesn't do podcasts?
Not that I know of.
You don't know.
Not that I
No, no.
know of. I mean, I've actually had the opportunity to ask Lauren Faust if she's met her, and she
has.
told me they really don't talk to each other. Like, they might have met each other once, but they don't actually talk on a regular basis. So,
You should ask Casey, who runs Equestria LA. She knows Bonnie. She could set that up for sure.
All right,
I bet. I bet she just hasn't done one because she hasn't been asked, or maybe you have to do it based on her specific, whatever.
boy.
But I met her at dinner one time. She's super nice. I don't think she's a a diva like that or anything. She's just
Oh
a
no,
lady.
I'm not assuming a diva. I assume a busy schedule and kind of like John Delancey because he doesn't like podcasts. I was told, but I'm not judging over that.
No.
Honestly,
just figured-
my dream interview is to get Ashley Ball on here. That's the dream right
Oh,
there.
I
That's
wonder why.
that's
Gee, I
shut
wonder
up.
why.
That's the
Oh.
ultimate goal. Hopefully, somewhere down the line.
Well,
I
my
would-
fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to interview Sarah Richard and ask her which owl deity did she sacrifice her soul to make her so thing.
Sarah Richard seems like a pretty easy get to. I feel like you can. That's an obtainable dream.
Yes, make your dreams obtainable, and then you can achieve anything you want.
Yeah. If you ask her, you can tell her to check with me, and I'll tell her that you guys are all right.
Aw, thank you. We
Yay,
appreciate
we're
that.
all-
All right. So since we've hit the end of the podcast, Tony, is there anything you would like to promote? Shameless self-promotion time.
I mean, just I guess follow me online. I'm on Twitter at Tony Fleece and on Instagram at Tony Fleece. I tweet more than I Instagram. My website is TonyFleece.com. It's mostly like an original art store, but it also has a schedule of like appearances and stuff. I'll be at Central Valley Comic Con this weekend, which is in Modesto, California. It's my last show of the year. It's a one-day show. It's just on Sunday. So yeah, check me out.
Right. It should be good. So from all of us here at Roundtable, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Hope you had a good time on Roundtable.
Of course, yeah, I'm gonna go right back. I'm drawing Legends of Magic number 11 right now, so I gotta go back
Ah.
to work.
Coolio.
Nice.
I heard the Legends of Magic series is pretty good.
It's pretty good. I recommend it.
All right. So from all of us here at Roundtable, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Stay awesome.